What's going on, good people? What is going on? This is your brother, your uncle, your favorite realtor's favorite realtor, and I'm coming to you with the Thursday live, where I'm going to take some topic that I think is going to be very important, just based on what I'm currently navigating as a real estate professional. And my hope is that if you are dealing with this exact same scenario, that this helps provide some clarity in how you are, walking your clients through what's going on. As you guys are jumping in here, please be sure to hit the subscribe button. It's incredibly important to make sure that you are tapped in with your brother, your uncle, on a very regular basis. The objective and the goal is to go live at least once a week with something that I think is going to help you in your business. And of course, as always, if you are a real estate professional, I would love to talk about alignment here at Real Brokerage. Agents are seeing the economics, they're seeing the technology, they're seeing the culture, and they are making the move. So I don't want you to have a scenario where you don't leave your brokerage until you hate the situation. If you are indifferent about where you hang your license, it may make the most sense to hang your license at a place like Real Brokerage. So if you want to have a conversation about that, please click the link in the description of this video. So I'm in my office right now. I'm still working on it. It's still a work in progress, but I'm super excited to chop it up with you guys for today's live stream. So we're talking about what are some of the reasons that a person would regret buying a home in 2025. So, of course, we are in the middle of tariffs and just a lot of stuff going on in our world. Let me move this out the way here. A lot of stuff that's going on in our world right now. And I have the honor and the privilege of being a lot of individuals, a real estate professional, real estate coach, team lead, all that jazz. And they are asking me, Marvin, how should I navigate this situation with my clients? I got this going on, I got that going on. I also get calls from clients or potential clients that are also, very nervous right now. They're trying to figure out, hey, Marv, what should I do right now? I bought a home, or I'm thinking about buying a home right now, and I really don't know if that would be the smart thing to do. Then I also have scenarios where I'm currently helping sellers that purchased their home in 2025 or within the last 12 months that unfortunately they are regretting the decision that they made to buy and are now in a situation where they have to sell, right? So, what I would say would be some of the main issues that a person will run into are going to be the top 10 that we will talk about for this particular live stream. I would say thing number one, and let me know in the chat or if you're watching this in the replay, if you're dealing with the same situation. I think the interest rate trap. The interest rate trap would be one of the main reasons that a person would regret buying a home in 2025, and that would be an individual that's locking in at a high interest rate now, only to see interest rates drop later and leaving them unfortunately overpaying for years unless they make the decision to refinance. So if we're in a scenario where you hear a real estate agent tell you, when's the best time to buy, every real estate agent, most real estate agents that I know, they'll tell you that the perfect time to buy is right now, right? Because most of them, of course, their income is dependent on getting you as the consumer to the closing table. The way that I approach it when an individual asks me when is the perfect time to buy or the best time to buy is I say that it depends. It really truly depends on your specific situation, Mr. and Mrs. Consumer. I think that folks get a little bit of envy. They see their coworkers, they see their network, their college friends, everybody's buying a home. So they don't want to feel like they are left behind. They don't want to feel like they're not keeping up with the proverbial Joneses, right? And so they make the mistake and they buy that home without a real estate professional in some instances, or they buy that home without asking the tough questions of their partner, if that's the case, or themselves, if they are a single person. And I think that the interest rate trap would be one of the big issues that a potential buyer of a real estate property would have, because unfortunately, once you purchase that home, you kind of, if you're working with a lender that has the heart of a teacher. Of course, all of the lenders that I work with, they have the heart of a teacher, and they explain things to potential buyers in a way that they understand it, right? And we all know as real estate professionals that a person's mortgage payment is going to primarily consist, as far as the biggest piece of that payment, is going to be interest and taxes. So the interest that a person pays is going to be based on the interest rate that they locked in when they purchase their home, at the time that they close, right? So if you purchased your home and interest rates were at the 6, the 7, percent, even higher, when interest rates were really crazy, and you were not really, factoring in, maybe you bought a new construction and you bought it as dirt, and your lender did not explain to you that that payment that they are quoting you is is not going to be wholly accurate based on when the taxes are assessed on the actual property being there for a full year, that your payments could potentially jump 2%, double, 2 times is what I was trying to say. And I think that that's been some of the things that's gotten a lot of individuals in a lot of trouble, because they bought a home without a real estate professional. I never ever suggest you buy a home without a uh-oh, there we are. I never ever suggest that you buy a home without a real estate professional. I think that it's incredibly key to make sure that you have somebody that is working for you. You might not think that you need a real estate agent when you're buying a home, especially if it's a new construction, but that has been one of the number one things that has caught buyers off guard, is walking into that model home, seeing that very nice sales agent probably getting a bottled water or some candy, and they're just touring the home, and the sales agent is all bubbly and excited for you. And a lot of these individuals, the consumers, don't realize that that sales agent is a realtor that works for the builder, right? So they would love for you as a consumer to walk into their property and buy a home without an agent, because for one, they don't have that extra level of accountability, like having a real estate professional like you and me watching, as their realtor. And for two, they are going to keep all of the commission with no accountability. No, they don't. The real estate professional or the sales agent, they're not focused on anybody but the builder. The builder is who they work for. So it's important to know that you have to, in any aspect of the real estate transaction, yes, Zillow is out there. Yes, Realtor.com is out there, and consumers are more empowered than they've ever been in recent years. And I love that. I love when consumers come to me with certain questions because they're following some Reddit forum, or they're in some Facebook group that they tell people, you don't need an agent. An agent's just there to open a door, all that jazz, only for them to put themselves in a situation where your brother, your uncle, your favorite realtor's favorite realtor has to come and clean up the mess that they made, unfortunately. And in some cases, it may be even too late before I can even, and I can't even get involved as a professional. So I think that it's incredibly key to make sure as a consumer that you are keeping an eye on interest rates, that if you're interested in purchasing a property, that you are working with an agent that has a bulldog mentality that will get you those seller credits that you can use to buy down your interest rate as low as possible. Of course, if you're working with a buyer and you are going through a builder, 8 times out of 10 is usually going to be more advantageous to use the builder's lender, because in some cases, the builder's lender may be offering, right now, if interest rates are in the 6 and 7s, they may actually be offering 4.9, 4.5. I've seen this happening right now, where if you go through a builder's lender, it's usually going to be a much better interest rate than if you were to purchase a home resale, and then the seller gives you all these seller credits to buy down the rate, but they still can't buy it down enough to match what a builder's lender is offering. And the reason for that, for those of you that are newer to the business. And if you're just jumping in, please be sure to hit the thumbs up button and say what's up in the chat here. Let me know where you're tapping in from. But the reason that most individuals are not aware that builders can offer, 4% interest rate, 3% interest rates, where the market is 6 and 7% interest rate, is because a lot of these builders, they buy a ton of loans. So they're willing to take the loss on the interest rate to keep everything in house. So they'll offer you 4.9 because they know, for one, they can be in complete control of that transaction and they know that you will get to closing working with their in-house lender. For two, that lender and that builder have a relationship where that builder is going to get something from that. And for three, it's just cheaper to take that loss for the builder to know that they're going to move that property and get it under contract and get it off of their books by offering you a lower rate on the front end. They're going to make their money. These builders are going to make their money a couple of different ways. But I love this scenario because with a builder's lender, as long as the lender is reputable and a very highly rated bank or lending company, it's usually going to be where I steer my clients in most cases. Go with the builder's lender because, for one, they're going to give you a better interest rate than your Wells Fargo, your Truist, your Bank of America. And on top of that, you get a lot of incentives, free washers and dryers, blinds, all this kind of extra perks that they'll give you. And on top of that, they'll usually offer you cash at closing, in the form of concession. So it usually turns into a very win-win situation. So that's something you want to you keep in mind of. The next thing that I think that leads to regret for home buyers in 2025 is the hidden maintenance nightmare. So a lot of times when you purchase a home, unfortunately, and again, I've only seen this happen when individuals do not use a really good real estate professional. And even if you're not here in Atlanta, in the Atlanta area watching this, and you want to know who would be a great real estate professional to work with in your respective state, hit me up. You just shoot me an email, info@soldbymarvin.com. I'm happy to put you in touch with the version of myself in Florida, in Texas, in Illinois, all over the 50 states. I have realtor partners that I work with that I know, like, and trust, and I know that they will take care of you with the heart of a teacher. So a lot of times when you're purchasing a home, you might think because you're walking into the home and the light bulbs are working when you turn it on, the refrigerator works, the toilet flushes, you don't factor in the fact that there are going to be ongoing maintenance costs that are tied to the ownership of that property. That's something, unfortunately, that a lot of buyers just are not thinking about. And I make it a point for me when I'm having my conversations and my consultations with buyers, once we know that we are pre-approved and we're ready to go, I'm letting them know, hey, look, there is going to be costs associated, especially the older a home is. There are going to be costs that are associated with the ownership of this property. If you decide you want to have that, classic traditional home, that modern home that has those, it's been built in the 70s, 80s, or early 2000s, just know that home ownership is going to have its fair share of repairs that are done. And the hope, of course, is if you buy a resale home, that the previous owner has taken care of that property and kept up with the maintenance. They can typically, when I'm working with my sellers, I ask them, where are your HVAC records? The ongoing maintenance that you do with your HVAC in your AC unit. Do you have that documentation? When was the roof last replaced? Do you have that documentation? Any work that you've done to the property, any repairs that you've done to the property, it would be a good idea to keep that stuff in a very nice folder. That way, when you are ready to sell, you can show a potential buyer, hey, look, this is how I've taken care of the home, right? It's one of those things that when you buy flip situations, homes that have been flipped, unfortunately, those flippers go in and they just put lipstick on a pig. In a lot of cases, these flippers, they have a certain budget, they have a certain type of way that they approach the rehab process of homes. And a lot of these individuals, unfortunately, they cut corners. And I've seen too many scenarios, too many TV shows as well, where these flippers have gone in, they watched a couple episodes of HGTV, Flip This House, and they go in and they just do the bare minimum to a property. There's all kind of building code violations and everything that they try to, bypass. And so when you're purchasing a home that has been updated and things of that nature, just keep in mind that there may be some corners that were cut. So it's incredibly important to make sure that you have an inspection done on that property by a very good inspector that you have in your back pocket, or your realtor has in their back pocket, that that they work with, that has done a lot of good work, because these inspectors will find something going on with that home. And usually it's one of those things that when you have a trained eye for that kind of stuff, a good inspector will show you, like, okay, based on how the floorboards are moving a certain kind of way, or based on the fact that there's moisture in a certain room, I suspect that there may be mold, or I suspect that there may be foundation issues. Like, a really good inspector will be worth their weight in gold for the savings that and the headaches that they help you avoid as a potential buyer. But even if that's not the case, let's say you decide that you want to go with a brand new home, right? A brand new home, even though it's brand new, it's going to have its fair share of issues. And a lot of times, in certain cases, just keeping the new home conversation going just a little bit longer, with brand new homes, I think that a lot of times people think, consumers, not anyone that works with me, but consumers think, oh, it's new, it's not going to have any issues at all. That can be a very, very big misnomer that can get you in a whole lot of trouble. I mean, there are a ton of videos. You can go on TikTok and see that there are a ton of videos where individuals buy homes brand new. They think because it's brand new that they don't have to get any kind of inspection, because it's brand new. What I need an inspection for? It's new, right? And they don't realize that the plumbing wasn't done right, that the electrical wasn't done right, that there's all kinds of issues in the home. And unfortunately, once you purchase that home, most builders, if it's new, most builders will give you, a 1 year warranty, a 2 year warranty, things of that nature. But that's only on the things that you uncover as the consumer within a certain time period. But once that drywall goes up, you don't know what was done wrong with that framing, and those kind of issues you will not know until it becomes an issue and your house starts shifting to the left or to the right. So I always suggest, when you're working with individuals on the new construction side, agents that are watching this, I strongly, strongly suggest that you encourage them to get two different kinds of inspections. Okay. The first is going to be a pre-drywall inspection. Most inspection companies offer this service. It's very straightforward. What they do is they come out and inspect that property before the sheetrock goes up. They inspect that property to make sure that the framing has been done correctly, that there are no red flags that they're finding in the home that unfortunately they will not be able to see once that sheetrock has been and that drywall has been put up. And then have them get a secondary inspection once the home is pretty much done. The reason being is because if there's going to be an issue, it's usually going to be caught before the drywall goes up or after the drywall goes up. But if you avoid getting any inspection at all, because the builder's not going to offer it to you, they're not going to tell you to get it. They're going to just say, "Oh, it's brand new. We're going to give you a 210 warranty. No, if anything's going on with the house, just call us. We'll come out and fix it." But they're not going to suggest that you get an inspection, which is why it's incredibly important to make sure that you are working with a real estate professional on the buy side, because it doesn't cost you anything in the majority of cases. Builders and listing agents are still generally offering compensation to a buyer's agent. And if not, the buyer's agent, a good one, will work their compensation into the negotiation of a property. But if it's a builder specifically that you're working with, they're usually going to be still paying our full, compensation. But don't go at it alone. And if you're an agent watching this, strongly encourage your clients to work with you, because again, it's going to matter having that advocate that's asking these kinds of questions that we're talking about on this live today, to make sure that your buyer is not put in a disadvantageous situation. So let's say you do all of that and you still are running into issues in your home. Well, that's where it's going to be important to encourage your clients to get a home warranty, especially if they're buying a property new construction. Not new construction, if they're buying a property resale, because most new constructions will come with a home warranty. But many individuals are not aware that you can purchase a warranty on a resale home. The monthly amount for it might be a little bit higher, especially if it's an older home, but pretty much any single family home can have a home warranty put on it. There's a lot of good companies that I like that do home warranties, and they really do a really good job. Just shoot me an email, info@soldbymarvin.com, if you want to get a few suggestions if you're a real estate professional. And these companies are, they're home warranty companies. So what they do, let me lower my thing here a little bit. What they essentially will do is, if you have an issue in your home, you just call a number, and this home warranty company will take your information, find out what's going on, and so on and so forth. And all you pay out of pocket might be 70, 50 to $75, and they will send someone to the home to assess what's going on and repair the issue. And in most cases, the out of pocket that you have to pay would be significantly lower. Having a home warranty program that you use, it would be significantly lower than for you to make that repair on your own, completely out of pocket. So I can't stress, especially if you have a client that's really worried, especially first-time home buyers. They usually are extremely concerned about different things happening in their property. But I think that it would be advantageous, especially on the resale side, if you're helping them buy a resale home, to write that into the offer that you would like the seller to provide a credit to provide a credit in the amount of the first year premium of a home warranty. So what that means is, again, hit me up if you're an agent, info@soldbymarvin.com. I'll send you the a few companies that I really like. I don't want to give them free advertising on this video here, but if you hit them up, they'll tell you, okay, if we were to cover a property, it might be $600 a year, $500 a year, whatever the case is for the first year. You write that into your offer, requesting that the seller pay for, they offer you closing costs as well as a credit for the purchase of a home warranty of your choosing, of your buyer's choosing. Don't let it be of the seller's choosing, because they're going to go with the most janky company in the world. But if you put that language into your contracts, and again, run this kind of stuff by your broker, but this is usually the case in every state, but I have to put that disclaimer out there: run it by your broker. That is incredibly important that you write that into that contract, because again, your client may not know that a home warranty is something that they can purchase on their resale property. So how incredible would you look as an agent if your potential client now knows that they're going to walk into this home with the peace of mind, knowing that that property is going to be covered, at least for the first year, with a home warranty, that if anything goes wrong, they just call a number, pay $75 in most instances, and the problem is taken care of. That's going to make you look like an incredible advocate for your clients. And it will just really create that sense of, man, my person, my guy or my gal really has taken care of me in those areas that I didn't really think about. Let me send him or her even more business because they did such good work. That's how we, as real estate professionals, separate ourselves from the pack and move away from being transactional agents to actually being an advocate and an asset to the clients that we work for. So the next thing that you want to make sure that you don't have to deal with from a regret standpoint. I know I spent a lot of time on the first two because that's usually going to be one of the biggest things that that our consumers and buyers have to navigate with that home buying regret. But the next thing that you want to make sure that you are not dealing with, which can be an issue, would be neighborhood nightmares. All right. So I know some clients completely hate the idea of an HOA. They don't want anything to do, depending on the city. Let me know in the comments if this is you. Oh, I see my boy Easy on the call. Good to see you, Easy. Good to see you, brother. Um, so I tend to lean on steering clients towards communities with an HOA, and I'll tell you why. Okay. Yes, it's true that if you are in a community that doesn't have an HOA, you have complete free range to do whatever you want with your house. If you want to if you want to paint your house polka dot, you can absolutely do that. If you want to put a garden in your front yard, you absolutely can do that with an HOA. If you want to, if you want to do whatever on your property, you can pretty much do that without an HOA. Most neighborhoods, if they don't have an HOA, they usually have covenants of some sort that are at least kind of a baseline level of HOA. But personally speaking, I tend to suggest to my clients to consider communities with an HOA, and I'll tell you a couple of use case scenarios. So let's say you have a neighbor, and that neighbor decides that they want to turn their driveway into a used car lot, or they want to change the engine out on their 92 Pinto in their driveway, and that car is just sitting completely stripped down, and literally your neighborhood looks like a used car lot. If you have an HOA community, you can report that person to the HOA. And if it's a good HOA, they'll be all over it. And they will send those individuals not so friendly warnings and then eventually fine them. If you're in a scenario where you've put a lot of money into your home, into the upkeep of your home, both inside and outside, and let's say you'll be ready to sell your property, if you're help your client sell their property, if you're representing the client, how much of a problem will that be if you, as the listing agent, know that your client's home is beautiful? They've updated it on the inside. They've got all the fancy schmancy stuff. They even put gold toilets in the joint. But their neighbor next door has decided to open a chicken farm because eggs are, from what I hear, eggs are very expensive. I've been vegan for 10 years. So I haven't had an egg in over a decade almost. But they've decided to have a bunch of chickens and goats running around their property next to your client's property that's trying to sell their home. Or they've turned their property into a meth dealership, a meth dealer next door, and you're seeing all kinds of shady activity happening out of that neighbor's house, or your seller is, and now they cannot sell their home as easily because if a buyer walks up there and they see a chicken run across the doggone driveway, or a couple of chickens and goats, unless that's something that they're looking for, if they're farmers and stuff like that, that's going to make that client's home less attractive. So when you have an HOA kind of situation, or at least a neighborhood that puts a very big emphasis on the upkeep and just making sure that every neighbor looks out for each other, like our parents used to do. Easy said, Breaking Bad, yeah, for sure, Breaking Breaking Bad in the neighborhood. You know, that's going to be something that's incredibly important, to just make sure that, hey, look, the neighborhood has a very strong sense of pride, a sense of community. Everybody looks out for each other, that kind of thing. And that's going to be beautiful to showcase as a listing agent, so that when buyers are coming to the home, I know in our community, like one of the things that sold us on the community that we live in is we were seeing people like walking in the neighborhood. Like, it was amazing. We'd never seen that in our, previous properties that we've lived in. We could tell that the community had a really big emphasis on being outdoors and just walking, and just, you see the dog, you see the kids running around, like that kind of stuff matters. Now, imagine if when we were purchasing, you're helping your client purchase, and y'all are turning the corner for that listing. And as I mentioned, you see people hanging out, fighting outside, chickens and goats running around, all that kind of stuff happening. Unfortunately, that situation, especially if there's no HOA, there's nobody that's policing that situation, right? So I think that that's important, to just make sure that of course, we cannot discriminate when we're helping our clients, and as far as explaining the pros and cons of a certain neighborhood, we cannot in any way talk about things that are going to highlight protected classes, of course, race, familial status, all that kind of stuff. We don't have those types of conversations, but I think that it's incredibly important that you encourage your client, to if they're interested in a particular part of town, especially for my relocation clients, I always suggest that they spend a weekend or two in the particular area that they want to eventually live in. Get familiar with the grocery stores, get familiar with the post offices, the malls that are in the area, the school system. Get an idea of that area. I'm happy to help you look for the hidden gems in that community. But Mr. and Mrs. Client, I always suggest that you come on down, especially if you've been watching a lot of move to Atlanta videos. I moved to Atlanta with $50. That kind of stuff. Is a ton of that on YouTube. I always suggest to them that they come on down, not just to hang out with me. I'd love to do that, but make sure that you're spending time in this particular area that you're interested in. That way, you know exactly what you're going to be dealing with on a day-to-day basis. And then don't just come to a property in the more in the daytime when it's nice and pretty. Also, come tap in with the community at night. Drive by at night and see what's going on in that neighborhood before we put an offer on that property. Mr. and Mrs. Client, I want you to see what's going on in that neighborhood, because I can't tell you that I saw somebody selling dope around the corner. I can't tell you that. I can't get into all that in the neighborhood. I just can't. You know what I mean? But because that leads into talking about crime and statistics, and we as real estate professionals, we cannot do that. So what I would suggest to the client is that they do their a level of due diligence, and my job is to, of course, look out for them, but I always strongly suggest that they kind of get an idea for the neighborhood so that they know what the culture is that they're gonna walk into. And then I'm gonna speed things along here because I want to get you guys out of here before the hour is up. And for those of you that are tapped in, appreciate you tapping in. Please be sure to hit the thumbs up button. Be sure to follow me on social media at Sold by Marvin, SOLD by Marvin. I'm on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all those places. But hit the thumbs up button if you're watching this now, as well as watching this on the replay. All right. So what we're talking about, if you're just jumping in here, is what are some of the pain points that could lead to buyer regret in 2025? So I think that market timing miscalculations is another thing. Of course, when the pandemic was happening, homes were, I mean, you'd have a multiple bid situation. Let me know in your market, was there a multiple bid situation that was happening? I know here in Georgia, a lot of that was going down. And even now, where we're in now, folks are always kind of like, okay, is now the time to buy? Oh, with all these, with where interest rates are at now, I think right now might be a buyer's market right now, Marvin. What do you think? And folks will hit me up and kind of ask me for my insight, and I always, always, always lead with the word that it depends. It depends on the part of town. It depends on the price point. It depends on a lot of factors that individuals, quite frankly, are not thinking about. They're just watching, some guru on TikTok telling them that they need to, buy the home now or buy the home at, in this particular area because it's going to appraise, it's going to cash flow, it's going to do all of this. And I think that, places like Bigger Pockets and a lot of these, very, very helpful, YouTube channels and things of that nature specific to real estate that are out there. I think that it's good that they're providing another perspective, but in a lot of ways, they are painting with a very broad brush and giving individuals information that, although helpful, may not necessarily apply to their specific situation. So that's why, and I work with a lot of investors. I'm an investor myself. So, I think that it's very important to make sure, again, I'm going to always advocate for working with a realtor. Of course, my bias is that, but for the fact that you need an individual that knows what's going on in the local market. If you don't like the vibe of one realtor, find another one. Keep interviewing them. And there are investor specific realtors if that's your jam. Whatever your deal is, however you're trying to enter real estate, whether you're looking to purchase for yourself or as to live in or as an investment, it's always going to be incredibly key to make sure that you're working with a professional at all times, because they will tell you what's going on with the market at that present time. They'll also give you the data of what's been going on from a cyclical standpoint, what's been going on over the last 30, 60, 120 days, 12 months, all that jazz. A good real estate professional should be able to provide that information fairly easily, and you can use that information to make informed decisions. And in addition to that, if you're going to be purchasing a home with a loan, then working with a lender, a really good lender that has the heart of a teacher as well, they can also give you an idea of what's going on with the markets. How is the tariffs going to potentially affect the loan market, the interest rate market, is what I was trying to say. How the treasury yields, how those factor in, what's going on with Jerome Powell, all these types of things. A good lender on your team will be able to help you translate all that information to be a stronger advocate for your clients. But if you don't ask these types of questions and at least know enough to be dangerous, I don't try to play the role of a lender. I let the lenders do their job as far as explaining what's going on with interest rates and the market in general, but related to the financing part of things. But you really can't time the market. It's just like the stock market. When was the best time to buy a stock in Apple, for example? 20 years ago and today, depending on the individual that you ask. But I think that if you bought a home for the wrong reasons, you're probably going to sell the home for even worse reasons. And that's something that you have to remember, that you make your money on the buy. That's why I tell clients all the time, and that's investor mindset 101, is that the money is made on the buy, right? So I think that it's incredibly important to just make sure that you are looking at what your goals are for that property, what you need it to do, how long you plan on being in that home, if you plan on living in one part and renting out the other, if you're trying to be one of those fly kids that buy those, quadplexes, triplexes. You live in one through the FHA program, but then you rent out the other three or two. That's dope. I'm for all that. But just make sure that you are explaining to your clients, if you're a real estate professional watching this, and if you're a consumer, make sure that you buy the home based on what's important to you, not based on what some guru on TikTok is telling you should be doing. Because again, those gurus more than likely are simply um, giving information that they are translating incorrectly, and that can be, and they always put those disclaimers out there that uh they're not your advisor kind of thing. And I think that and I think that it's incredibly important. There we go. I think that it's incredibly important to just make sure that you have your set of goals written down, what you want to do with that property, how long you want to remain in that property, what is your exit strategy from that property. If it cash flows, great. Working with a realtor professional, if you're looking to rent it out, for example, they will tell you what the market rent is for that particular area so that you can bake in what your potential profits are going to be. Right now, cash flow is a lot harder to come by because the interest rates are higher. So there's not as much meat on the bone. But there are a ton of other creative ways that you can, make money on a property. You just have to, if you're looking at it from the investor angle, you just have to make sure that you're going about it the right way and that you've run your numbers and that the numbers make absolute sense for you, baking in a little bit for emergencies that that might happen, that will happen in your specific scenario. And then the last two things that I want to kind of talk through is the dream home delusion. So I've had cases, unfortunately, with clients where they have frankly bought too much home. I'm going to drink from my little real bottle here that I got here. Look, we're real. So again, if you're a real estate professional, hit me up, info@soldbymarvin.com, to talk about alignment here at Real Brokerage. I love it here, and I think you will as well. And I'd love to talk about why Real Brokerage could work for your business in 2025. Hit me up if you're interested in that conversation. But the dream home delusion, that would be something that I think is very important. And what does that mean? When you're a first time home buyer, and I've seen this quite often with my couples, unfortunately, is they buy a home and they buy the home based on emotion. Uh, they're not very practical because once that dopamine hits, boy, that dopamine is a beast. So, they purchase a property and they might look at just one factor that they really love while ignoring like 10 other factors that could be red flags. And so they purchase a home based on emotion. They don't realize that interest rates are significantly high right now and could potentially go higher, could go lower. We never know. Nobody has a crystal ball. But they only purchase a home based on a one track mind. And they don't work with a professional in some cases. So they don't have anyone advocating for them. And they don't realize that most individuals historically stay in a property about 5 to 7 years before they're ready to move again. So that's something that's really important to realize, is that most consumers are in a home on average 5 to 7 years. So whatever your dream home is can and will change. Your mindset can change. Kids can come into play. Parents may have to come down and live with you. All those types of things can happen. So it's important, at least for your first home, to realize that will you still love this home, Mr. and Mrs. Client, in 5 to 7 years if this changes or that changes? What are some of those factors that you may not be thinking about? And that's something that I walk through with my clients. I let them know, well, this particular business might be coming to the area. Based on that, is this something that would be comfortable for you to be aware of and be lit, and still want to live in this community? I try to give them as much public information that I'm aware of, and in most cases, the home that they're in is still a great scenario. But unfortunately, there are certain things where they are looking through the lens of rose-colored glasses. They are dead set on one thing. Let's say they wanted to be in a community that had a pickleball court. That's kind of the trendy thing. And because they love pickleball, they want to move to a community with a pickleball court around the corner. And I'm not picking on my pickleball fans. I hate pickleball personally, but that has nothing to do with this live stream. No knock to my pickleball folks out there. I'm just kidding. No, I'm not. But I think that is really important to make sure that they look at things in its totality as far as the clients that you're working with, that they are factoring in the pros and cons of a particular home, and that they also realize, and I think this is important as well, that clients realize that there's never going to be a perfect home. So Marvin ain't taking you to look at 50 houses. We at the most, on average, I look at about 5 or so houses with a client before we have an idea of, okay, where are you at with things? I mean, I say 5 to 10 homes is where we'll be looking at. And if you're just nitpicking every single home because it doesn't check everything on your wish list, I may not be the realtor for you. I don't think anybody is going to be the realtor for you. But if you are a real estate professional and you are driving individuals to look at 50 homes because unfortunately that client is a little delusional in thinking that that home that's going to be perfect in every way is out there, you just have to go find it. Those individuals, unfortunately, in my opinion, are never going to find uh, that home that's perfect for them. So that's the flip side of the coin. Is some individuals will avoid all of the red flags with a property and still want to buy that home because of this one aspect that they love about it. And then once that dopamine has settled, then there's a little bit of buyer's remorse that creeps in. Or you might have an individual, and again, as real estate professionals, I mean, we're here to serve, of course. We just have to make sure everything is a good fit. But I can't tell you guys how many scenarios that I've had where I helped the client buy a home, and then like 3 or 4 years later, they're ready to look for another home, and I'm like, okay, I'll gladly do the listing, but I will of course ask those questions. Well, what's going on? Well, we just decided, we just kind of, we want something a little different, or we didn't like the fact that, they built this grocery store here, or that grocery, that kind of thing. I mean, it'll be one of the most minutia issues that they have with the property that just makes them just want to up and move. And the thing for me as a professional is, I'm going to at least ask to see, okay, well, what is it that you're looking for in your next home to make sure that, this is the right fit? Because this is money that these individuals are putting down for down payments, depending on the situation. They may not have let enough equity build up in their property that, and they're going to be selling at a loss kind of thing. Like, I don't want an individual, because again, it goes back to the market timing. I don't want you to sell your home in a down market just for me to make a commission. That ain't how I roll. It's a whole bunch of other ways I get money that I'm not going to tell my client to put themselves in a disadvantageous situation because of feelings and emotions. I'm going to give my suggestion and then allow them to make an educated decision based on that. But I don't want a person hopping from house to house every 3 years. I tell my clients, I want you building generational wealth. That's a trendy word that I know I hope that dies in 2025. But I want you truly to put yourself in a advantageous position. Now, if you buy the ugliest house in the nicest neighborhood and you're only in there for like 2 or 3 years, and the game plan going into it is that you're going to, for example, for my investor folks, you want to get a home under FHA, live in it for a year, and then eventually rent it out, and then go and buy another property. Cool. That's the game plan. We know that that's the game plan from the onset. So I can rock with that all day. I love that strategy. But if you're in a situation where you just got bored with the property, and because you're bored with the property, you decide to sell after 3 years, 2 or 3 years, that's only going to, for one, keep you from really truly building equity in a property, and for two, it gets very expensive. What if you bought the home the first time when interest rates were a lot lower, and now you're buying again and interest rates are significantly higher, but you were expecting that you could get a certain type of home, and now you realize because of interest rates being where they're at, you can't afford it like you think you could, but you hate the house that you're in, and it just turns into a very toxic home ownership situation. And I don't want that to be anybody that's under the sound of my voice here. So make sure that you're asking your clients those questions on the front end during the consultation. What's important to you? What's your dream list? What's your dream list? Are you aware that there's not going to be a home that's going to fit every single box that's most important to you? So what are your top out of 10 things? What are your top 7 that are non-negotiable? As a real estate professional, I can work with 6 to 7 out of 10 non-negotiables. I can work with that. There's enough inventory in my market that I can find something that's going to tick all 6 to 7. We ain't gonna find nothing that's 10 in most cases, but it's going to be my objective to try to find it. But I'm just saying, I'm very clear with my clients that there's no property that exists that I'm aware of that's going to fit every box. It's going to check every box. But our goal is to fit at least 6 to 7 of the things that are most important to you, Mr. and Mrs. Klein. That upfront honesty goes it's worth its weight in gold when you're talking with your clients. So make sure you're having those conversations with them and that you're walking through that. Um, Let me know in the comments as well, what are some of the reasons that you've seen clients regret buying their home? I think the top ones, in my opinion, are the interest rate trap, not knowing where interest rates are and just buying in a very ignorant way, not being fully informed on how interest rates can change their payment at the time depending on when they buy, and just trying to be very strategic as possible on the buy side. Neighborhood nightmares, of course, scenarios where the HOA is not in place, or not handling their business at all, and so you got people, cooking meth in their backyard, or having about 20 cats in the property, that are cats and dogs on the property, that's just all over the place. I think resale regret. So that's another one as well that I think is really important. And that's when a person buys a home with limited resale potential due to location, design flaws, and market saturation. I think that that's going to be a big thing. I think that's harming a lot of individuals that are would-be investors. These are people that they bought based on TikTok. That's just frankly, they bought based on TikTok. Some guru said something about how you can get unlimited cash flow if you buy in this type of community or that kind of community, a B-rated community, a C-rated community. Just giving all of these best case scenarios. They never talk worst case scenario. They only talk best case scenario, and individuals are buying in a very, they're only looking at the positives. They're not looking at the downside risk and making sure that they protect themselves from downside risk. And that's why they're buying, because of some guru on TikTok. And I don't want that to be you. And I don't want you as a real estate professional to have to navigate that kind of stuff with a client, because it gets to be in a very problematic situation for all parties, right? Because if you can't sell the house because, again, they bought the home next to them to Breaking Bad 2.0 next door, the seller is not going to say that's the reason that the home isn't selling. They're going to blame you as a real estate professional. So I think that it's really important at the front end to talk about the strengths of a property and some of the potential challenges. They call them headwinds and tailwinds. So the headwinds might be, okay, This neighborhood has a great, great school system. It's in a highly rated school system. There's parks, there's shops, there's all this great stuff in the area, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. But what are some of the tailwinds? The tailwinds, and I'm telling you all, these sellers are and buyers are going to thank you for being honest with them, because they need somebody to be honest with them for what in many cases are the single largest purchase that an individual is going to make in their home, in their life. A home, that's the single largest purchase the majority of Americans are going to make in their life, is the purchase of their home. So I would much rather you hate me for telling you the truth than for you to love me for lying to you. You know what I'm saying? So I just kind of walk through that with clients in a very friendly way. I'm not negative in any kind of way. I just say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Client, these are some of the really great things that I think are going to be very good highlights of the property. And here are some of the challenges that I foresee, and here's how we can kind of get ahead of it. So if I'm gonna say anything negative, I always try to have a solution to that. I always try to make sure that I talk about, how we can kind of work around XYZ, tailwind. But be honest to your clients. Those of you watching, if you don't have any clients, don't worry. I've given you some really great talking points that you can present to your potential prospects when you're making your calls, because there are people buying and selling real estate every single day. Okay. There has not been a scenario yet that I've seen where there were no closings on a particular day. Closings happen every single day. So that tells me that regardless of the current market situation, yes, there are a lot of individuals that may regret purchasing their home in 2025 because they don't follow some of the steps that I suggested in today's stream. But as you being that advocate there for them, I think that your potential clients will love you for that, and they will become clients of yours for life. And that's what I want. I don't want a transactional situation. I don't want a one and done situation with a client. I want to be your realtor, and I want to be your brother's realtor, your sister's realtor, your mother's realtor, your father's realtor, your co-worker's realtor. And I feel like the way that my business has grown has been because of the fact that I'm very straightforward in a very humorous way. If I'm gonna be the bearer of bad news, I'm gonna at least put a joke behind it, right? But I'm upfront and I'm honest with my clients, and that doesn't vibe with everybody, and that's okay. If it doesn't vibe with that individual, well, I've saved myself a headache. That's the way that I approach it. I don't try to be everything to every client, because some individuals are gonna find something to complain about. And although I don't get it right every single time, I pride myself on my systems that are in place that help me to engage sellers with the most up to date, accurate information possible, as well as engage buyers. And I love working with buyers because the current market that we're in right now, as of this recording, buyers are in a very advantageous situation to, get their pick of the litter. And I think that it's important when I'm helping those individuals navigate everything that they are empowered to make decisions, because they know their favorite realtor's favorite realtor is really truly looking out for them. And that's what I want to be the case for you. So if you made it to the end of this live stream, I want you to put a one in the comments below. I appreciate you all tapping in for this. I told you I'd get you guys out of here before the top of the hour, and I'm glad that I did that. If this is your first time tuning into the channel, I've got a wealth of content that I think will be very helpful for individuals. Appreciate you, Easy, for tapping in and staying for the full stream. I've got a wealth of content that I think is going to help you in your business, whether you are a brand new agent, a middle of your career agent, or a veteran agent that's ready to pack it up and leave. If you are not currently aligned with Real Brokerage, the only reason that I'm talking about it is because I have really enjoyed my business. Now that I'm aligned with Real, I've gotten excited about real estate all over again. And from an economic standpoint, not having those monthly fees has been a very huge blessing for other agents that are slow to getting their business out of the blocks, and they don't want to essentially be paying to be licensed somewhere. So those big name companies that are out there, trust and believe, they don't value you like you think they do. I think that a place like Real, and I encourage you to look under the hood, look into our financials, look into the brand in general. Don't just take this bearded guy's word for it. Look and see why so many agents that are on platforms like YouTube, TikTok, social media, not the gurus on TikTok, but individual agents that are very much doing a lot of business on these platforms. They're all here at Real, and that's because the culture here is unlike any other. So if you'd like to have a conversation about that, click the link in the description of this video. Let's book a time to chat. Let's run the numbers for your specific situation. And I'm happy to make those introductions if you're not in Georgia to someone that's an agent with Real that I know is going to take care of you in your respective state while having me as your support as well as your co-sponsor here through platforms like YouTube. So until then, this is your brother, your uncle, your favorite realtor's favorite realtor signing off. Thanks for stopping by for today's live stream. Peace.